Hello everyone, welcome to unit number 1 of operations management. Today we're going to talk about the basics of operation management, so try to pay attention and let's see how this goes. Okay, very good. So in this case, the first video that we have in here is operations management at McDonald's. I want you to watch this video so that you can understand how, for example, the production of food entails many things. Entails the production of the hamburgers on the back side, the supply chain itself, and the processes that they have designed in order for them to produce standardized product in less than 1 minute. So I think it's a great example for you. So make sure that you watch it, and then you will understand probably the unit much better. So what is operations management? Operations management is looking at all the resources that we have to transform an input into an output. That means if I have an input of clothes or I have a fabric, then I have to transform it into clothes. So when we think about this, how does that work? It's not automatically passed through a machine and there's a shared voila. No, there's the planning of the suppliers, when we're gonna get those supplies, from whom we're gonna get those supplies, how often we're gonna get those supplies, where we're gonna store that fabric while we set up the production line, because in the end it doesn't come the fabric and then we immediately produce it. No, we have to think of the inventory, how much we have on hand. We have to think how many machines we need, who operates the machines, how many we need to produce, how we're going to store it after the production, how we're going to transport it out after the production, how we're going to sell it, and how we're going to cope with the numbers that are required for sales, meaning if we have X amount of numbers of shares to be produced. So this is pretty much operations management, doing the study of how all the goods move across all the production line, the supply chain line, the production, the logistics, and the final sales. The sales we don't care that much because that's about marketing, but as long as the product is in the production part, then we're gonna take care of it. Okay. So when we're talking about the production of goods or services, we will always have three things in mind. Okay. Three things in mind, which is three things in mind. Always fail with this. It doesn't want to do it. Anyways, three things in mind. We have the marketing, which is generates a demand, means based on the number of sales we have to calculate, or the projection of the sales, we need to calculate the production. That means if we forecast that Uniqlo is gonna sell 1,000 shirts on X number of stores, we have to make sure that we have enough resources to produce that amount of shirts. Otherwise, we have an underproduction. That's the case, for example, of a company that faced a lot of underproduction was Lego. Lego had a lot of problems with underproduction because they were not able to cope with the demand that they had. So we always have to do a good operation, and we have to check how that's possible, right? So then we have, again, the marketing is a forecast of how many we're going to sell. The production, we are going to organize. That's the operations management. We're going to organize to see how many we need and how we're going to produce them, how quickly, what resources we need. And then comes the number 3, which is the finance, the finance is going to tell us how much is that going to cost. And that's important, right? So there's companies that they think of these three much in line, like IKEA. In this case, we have IKEA plans their logistics very well. The design of their products is made efficiently so that all of that operation works very smoothly, and in the end they offer a superior product at an affordable price, precisely because of all these things come together. So here, for example, we have, you can see the example of a commercial bank, how they have the operations, which is you go to the bank, they attend you, they have the finance in terms of how they run the money and the marketing. So anyways, that one you can read it on your own. So why is it important to study OM? So it is important because any company, the backbone of it is the operations. Means how do we become more efficient? How do we do things better, right? So that means how we do it more efficiently at the least cost, right? Because in the end, if I have a product, let's say a furniture of the IKEA, and to me it costs us to produce $10 and I sell it by 20, that's fantastic. But what happens when I maximize my operations, I make more efficient, and to me the cost of production reduces to, let's say, $7. Then we'll say a significant difference. So this is, so I can produce it better and then I can gain more money. Yeah, it sounds easy, but in reality, what we have to do is do a whole planning, the whole process, how we can maximize it to save those $3. You're going to say, yeah, $3 is very easy to save. Well, not in the industries, it's not, right? I'm going to tell you one example. The last time I went to Uniqlo and I found a pair of jeans for 3,001, not 30,001, 3,001. That means what is their real cost of production, so that if they sell it at 3,001, they either break even or still make a profit. That means that maybe for them the cost of those jeans is $2, maybe $1. I wouldn't know, right? But in the end, we have to talk about that. Like I said, is significantly for companies $3, $2, and reducing cost of cents. It's very important, and we do it by studying OM, right? If we have a perfect operation or nearly to be a perfect operation, it is more likely that we will save more money, right? So here, for example, we're gonna see a case study, and I want you to look at it slowly. But it says, for example, what happens if, for example, we want to increase the profit or the contribution in a company? So which is better? I increase the sales revenue by 50%, means maybe I increase the price of the goods. I cut costs in 50%, or I reduce the production cost, everything, the operations management option. So which one is going to generate more profit, the most profit? So you realize here, obviously, the one that generates the most contribution is if I maximize and optimize my operations rather than just selling more expensive, or rather than just cutting employees or cutting costs of the fabric, or I don't know, operate the machines for lesser time. Okay, so very good. So what do operations managers do? So first of all, they are gonna do the design of the goods and the services. Means they're gonna design it by themselves, because they are not designers, but they're gonna design how to produce it in the most effective way, right? So here comes always the communication with the actual industrial designers, which is how we're gonna design the product so it can flow smoothly, we can produce more and most efficiently. So here, for example, when we look at manufacturers of shoes, let's talk, for example, Nike, or now let's talk about another example, Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson, they do this a lot. They have a mainframe, and then through the mainframe, I can say like 50% of the production line follows the same frame. But then after 50% of the production, then starts to change the motorcycle to create different models. So in this case, they design the goods, so it's like at least 50% of the production process is done under the same parameters, same machines, same material, so that we don't have to change the production line on and on and on and on. So by doing that, they maximize the productivity, because they can produce more with less resources. Otherwise, what they will have to do is change the production line, change the materials, change the people, and then, okay, produce X series of motorcycles. Okay, we finish on Monday that one, then let's produce on Tuesday this one, on Wednesday this one, so etc. So that's how they maximize it. So second thing is managing the quality. An operations manager ensures that the quality is at optimal standards, and if there's deviations, how to tackle them. Third is a process and capacity strategy, means how we're going to commit the resources to be at maximum capacity, meaning that I am fully utilizing all the resources that I have. Now we have the location strategy. The operations manager understand that externally they have to supply goods or they have to supply certain things. So where's the right place to plan the production line? So in this case, there's many types. There was a last time, for example, there was a case of this flower shop. This flower shop, they decided to put their operations next to the hub of, I can't remember if it was FedEx or UPS, one of them too. So when they did that, they decided that it was a good approach because they wanted to sell flowers online, and they can pass the flowers very quickly through the fulfillment centers of the UPS or FedEx, and they can put those products immediately into the consumer's home or so. So in this case, that location strategy was very well planned. The layout strategy is operations manager try to make sure that the flow of the goods flow as efficiently as possible so that there's no hiccups. Or, for example, an employee carrying this from this side of the factory all the way to that side of the factory has to cross many areas and waste time. So how can I design the process so that it runs smoothly? Right? We have the human resources and job design. They need to understand how many people we need and what are the functions that they have to do, and be as detailed as they can. Why? Because they're going to pass those functions to the human resources department and say, I need an employee that has the skills, that knows how to do this, that is able to work this amount of hours, and then human resources were hired based on what the operations manager decides. Now we have the supply chain management, the materials, when they come in, how we store them, how we process them, how much they cost, etc. Because in the end, they are part of the production line as well, right? If I don't plan for the supply to come on time, then my whole production will be stopped, and then again, the productivity will be affected. So then the same thing goes together with inventory management. If I have the things on hand or I require them to shift them or so. Scheduling in terms of human resources, in terms of the supplies, in terms of the machines, that everything is working like a well-oiled machine. Everything is integrated, everything works well. And finally, the maintenance. What happens when the facilities have problems? If the machines stop because there's a malfunction or so we have to make sure as an operations manager that there's no stoppages due to mechanical malfunctions. Right, very good. So now we have to think that there's operations for goods or for services. So in goods, we talk about cell phones, we talk about jeans, we talk about shoes, and then in services, we're talking about different things. Like, for example, it can be medical. They provide you services for banking, education, etc. So those are those intangibles. Tangibles are those products that you can touch, and if I don't sell a phone today, I can sell it tomorrow. But if I didn't provide a class, I cannot provide it tomorrow. Well, I can, but technically we say, like, for example, a hotel room accommodation. Hotel room accommodation, if you don't sell it today, it's lost. There's no way you can recover it. So when we plan for services, we need to forecast and try to sell the things in advance. That's why you see many restaurants try to offer promotions on the weekdays, because they are trying to maximize their operations on the day-to-day. Here you're going to see some examples, right? So here, now let's talk about productivity. So productivity is the ratio of outputs. That means the goods and the services divided by the inputs, what I require to produce them. So in this case, the operation manager job is to maximize it, right? To improve it, that ratio. That means with the less resources, I can create the most goods. Now, for this matter, we have to talk about two things, which is high production and high productivity. They are not the same. High production means I produce a lot, but that means maybe I use a lot of resources for that. And then which translates into high productivity. A high productivity is the difference is with less resources, I am producing more. So ultimately, I always want high productivity and not high production. I want one employee to produce. Here we go again. For example, high production will be one employee producing 10 units or 20 units, right? High productivity will be the same employee producing 50 units. That's high productivity, okay? So, very good. So, productivity measurement, how we measure it? So, we measure it through, there's a single factor productivity, which is the units produced divided by the labor hours, but that is very simple one, which mostly in the industry we never do that. Mostly what we do is multi-factor productivity, which is we measure the labor, material, energy, capital, and any other things that cost us to produce a certain thing, because in the end we calculate this to give a final price to the final product, right? We will say to marketing, okay, like I said, the jeans example of the jeans of Uniqlo just now, my production cost, right? Productivity is like each unit cannot go be cheaper than 1,000. So marketing, that's your job, to sell anything above that so that we don't lose any money, right? Anything above $1 or 1,001, it's up to you how you price it, how you put it in the market. You want to sell it by 60,000, fair enough. That one you agree with finance, but at least we need to cover that. Okay, so in this case we have productivity variables. So a productivity increases based on three things. So I'm gonna explain them here. Well, let's just go there. We go through the labor. The better we treat the employees, the better nurtured they are, the better trained they are, the more productive they will be. So investing in training is a key area to make higher productivity. We can hire cheap labor force, not skilled, and then we pay them little, but in the end they produce a lot. They don't produce a lot because they don't know, they are not trained, etc., etc. So labor is the first thing. Second thing is capital. So how I invest money in machinery, in facilities, and making sure that those employees have the best tools for working. I can have one of the best employees, but if I don't have the right tools, that productivity will be hindered. And then we have the management, which is how I plan for the both of them. I have the money, and I have the facilities, and I have the employees, and I make them work together, and I make a great synergy between them. This happens with many managers. They are not good at that, and then regardless that they have great assets, human or physical, they don't put them to work together, and then causes the company to be a failure, right? So now when we talk about productivity in the services sector, it's very difficult to calculate because, again, sometimes we will have employees that we will have a service that maybe one consumer takes more time than others. So usually when we're talking about productivity in the service sector, we're talking more about quality than quantity, right? There's services like, for example, McDonald's, that it is measured based on time, how many customers or how many hamburgers we were able to sell. But again, it depends most on the consumer. So in this case, we will have to set different parameters to measure productivity in the service sector to see whether it's well developed or not. So we have also some challenges in operations management. Nowadays, we're talking about a globalized world. When we talk about a globalized world, we talk about supplies not coming from the same country, many different countries, how we have to do supply chains extended to other countries. We have to wait for those supplies, and we need to plan ahead for having them on time. On top of that, we have sustainability, which is how am I going to make sure that I produce goods without damaging societies or environments, right? I cannot just abuse employees to make them more productive. That's not ethical or sustainable. We have also the issue of rapid product development. Consumers want now services and products faster than before, and they want them mass customized. They want customization because I want this Nike swoosh to be in purple. So now companies are trying to design goods so that they can be matching the consumer needs, right? And finally, moving into lean operations, this is a challenge that operations manager are looking for, which is avoiding waste. Waste are those activities that generate no value or that make slower operations or that pretty much are waste of time. So a lean operation means the same thing. We remove that waste and we make everything more efficient and faster. Okay, very good. So here we can see, for example, how we can achieve competitive advantage for operations. This one I want you to read it on your own because we're going to talk about it every single unit, right? So in this case, we think of operations management, we talk about operation strategy. So we need to think, what approaches are we going to take? Are we going to focus on the resources that we have and how to maximize them? Are we going to talk about generating value in each part of the process? In the case, for example, of IKEA, they generate value by designing the boxing of the items. That means that everything comes on assembled. So that generates value because they save money on logistics and they can pass that cost saving to you as a consumer. Or finally, we're going to focus on the 5 forces model, which is more looking at what other companies are doing and how am I going to react to suppliers, how am I going to react to the buyers, how am I going to react if there's new products coming in or substitutes coming in. So we're going to talk about that later, more in later units, but let's keep it that way, right? So in this case, for example, we have the curves. No, in operations management, we talk about the product curve and where the product stands at, right? Where the product is in high maturity, we need to produce more. When we are in decline, perhaps we are producing less products. Okay, so we need to focus on different things in the OM strategy according to where the product is located. So let's talk about here key success factors and core competencies. So there's key success factors. There's things that I need to fulfill. Let's say, for example, I need a quality phone, right? I need a quality phone, and then for that I need all of the best components that I can. So I have to fulfill that quality. Here, let's say, for example, Samsung doesn't have the core competency of the microprocessor. They have the core competency at the design of the phone. They have competency at integrating all the components and putting them together, but not at creating many components of the phone. So what they're going to do is that they're going to pass those core competencies to someone else. In this case, for example, could be Qualcomm as a microprocessor company. And then, of course, they're going to become better at that. So we do precisely in this. When we don't have a core competency or we're not good at something, we're going to pass it to someone else that knows how to do it. And this is precisely that is called outsourcing. Outsourcing is that process of passing that to someone else that knows how to do it better. In this case, Qualcomm will do it better. So there's advantages of disadvantages because I can save costs, but at the same time, I don't own that part of the process. So there might be issues at some times. Anyways, that one you read it on your own. When we're thinking of comparative advantage, it's not the same as competitive advantage. Comparative advantage is countries that are doing or specializing in some certain thing. So if I want to focus, for example, on electronics, Korea and Japan have that comparative advantage. I will not go to Vietnam to produce this electronics because they don't have that expertise. But what they have the expertise is in manufacturing of garments, for example. So they can produce at very low cost, and that works very well. So when we're thinking about global operations, we have to think of where we're going to set our operations and what strategy we're going to follow. So in international strategy, let's say, for example, let's look at, for example, a Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton, they have their main quarters and production in Italy and in France, but ultimately they just distribute their products across the globe. They don't have a factory of Louis Vuitton in Korea. They don't have a factory of Louis Vuitton in America. Well, probably they have, but anyways, mostly they distribute just their products. We talk about a multi-domestic strategy, which is decisions are decentralized to each country to enhance local responsiveness. That means we have, for example, Procter & Gamble Korea, Procter & Gamble Southeast Asia, Procter and Gamble, etc., etc. Means they manufacture their products for the local response and they focus on their local market. Then we have the global strategy, which is in this case decisions are centralized and HQ coordinates everything. So in this case, for example, the case of Kia, they have a lot of centers. They do have production in other countries, but they all follow the products of the HQ, all the orders of the HQ. So in this case, in one, we give autonomy to respond locally. In global strategy, we control from the center everything. So what is transnational strategy? A mix of the two of them, which is we allow them to respond locally to many issues in terms of the marketing, designing of the products, etc. But at the same time, we give orders or we supply processes from the central HQ. This is the case of Sony. Sony does that, right? They allow companies to have their central responsiveness, but at the same time, they give them orders. Sony also, so that they do that very well because they allow transfer of innovation, that technology from local to central and from central to local. Okay, very good. That's it for today. If you have any questions, please let me know. And that's all for today. And I'll see you in Unit 2. Thank you so much. Stay safe.